Hello MotoGP fans. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. Pedro Acosta quietly sidestepped the growing speculation linking him to Ducati for 2027 during KTM's 2026 launch. The 21-year-old wants his focus on testing and results, not transfer gossip. We unpack what Acosta said, what it means for KTM and Ducati, and how the 2027 market could unfold. Beirer's candid words at KTM's launch make one thing clear. The factory knows it still has to earn Pedro Acosta's long-term commitment. What it means for Acosta, KTM, and the 2027 market. Ducati team manager Davide Tardozzi has offered a rare, revealing look inside the red garage as MotoGP heads into 2026. Speaking after a season of contrasts, Marc Márquez's title dominance and Pecco Bagnaia's uneven campaign, Tardozzi addressed rider management, mindset, technical evolution, and a tightening competitive field. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. At the KTM presentation, Acosta's posture was immediate and pragmatic. Deal with the present, not the headlines. With Sepang preseason running looming, he underlined that there are concrete things to fix and optimize on the track: setup, confidence, and race pace, rather than negotiating futures in a press room. His choice to answer with process over paperwork signals a rider who wants performance to drive opportunity, not the other way around. That approach also helps diffuse distraction for a team trying to reboot its development trajectory. Well, at the moment, I have enough problems to see what is going on in Malaysia, in pre-season testing. Acosta doubled down on performance as the primary currency. He reminded everyone that the back half of 2025 showed his potential, and that converting that momentum into consistent race results in 2026 is the immediate objective. For a young rider in contract limbo, producing on-track evidence is the optimal negotiation lever. Podiums and pole positions change conversations far faster than rumors. KTM will take comfort from a rider publicly committed to getting quicker this year rather than being distracted by the transfer merry-go-round. We are in 26. I want to make good results, like we were doing at the end of 25. When pressed on speculation, rumors of Ducati interest, whispers about Maverick Vinales and wider market chess, Acosta chose a diplomatic deflection. He refused to fan the flames and reminded the room whose presentation it was, KTM's. That diplomatic posture serves two purposes. It preserves professional relationships across the paddock, useful in a small sport, and it prevents teams from being forced into public positions before they're ready. For KTM, having their headline rider publicly affirm loyalty to the current program is a small but meaningful win. And also, I think today is not the day to talk about that. We are in the KTM presentation today. Acosta closed with a recognition that the 2027 market is a looming, messy variable. Everyone is a potential actor and many seats will shuffle when contracts expire and regulations change. His framing is honest. Riders and teams alike must balance short-term progress, this season's testing and results, with long-term career planning. For KTM, keeping Acosta focused on 2026 buys time to either build a competitive package around him, or to plan a graceful succession if offers become irresistible. For Ducati and others, the line between interest and action will come down to timing, budgets, and the rider's 2026 form. Let's try to be focused on 26, and then 27 will be a question mark for everyone. Pedro Acosta's answer was low-key but strategic. Dampen headline noise, prioritize preseason work, and let on-track performance create options. For KTM, the best outcome is simple: a fast, motivated Acosta who helps the team climb the manufacturer's order. For rival suitors, patience may be required. 2027 is shaping up as a high-stakes, outcomes-driven transfer window, and Acosta just signaled he intends to influence it the only way that truly matters, on the stopwatch. Beirer didn't sugarcoat it. KTM know they're behind the curve in convincing their star. That kind of open recognition is rare in public paddock diplomacy. It both lowers pressure internally, you've admitted the problem, and raises expectations externally, you're promising a fix. For Acosta, hearing his bosses say they haven't done enough yet signals seriousness. KTM won't beg, they'll show progress, and expect performance in return. We haven't done enough yet. Beirer doesn't hide the timetable. By mapping the Sepping test as the milestone, KTM converts vague promises into a deadline, publicly committing to a very clear plan. Focused on Sepping puts pressure on engineers, riders and decision-makers to produce visible gains, setup, electronics, aero or ergonomics, so that the conversation about 2027 is based on cold data, not speculation. We made a very clear plan on how we're going to face the season and how we're going to face the Sepping test, especially. Plans only matter if they're measurable. Sepping will be the first scoreboard. If KTM deliver tangible progress there, negotiations can credibly follow. If they don't, the market stays open, and Ducati/others will keep circling. Pitt frames Sepping as the moment of truth not just for lap times but for locker room belief, saying the test is where KTM will show not just Pedro but all our riders what we've delivered, turns the test into a showcase for rider confidence. It's smart PR and smart team strategy, because a rider's buy-in is often as much emotional as technical. So I'm quite certain the Sepping test will be important for us to show not just Pedro but all our riders what we've delivered over the winter. If riders step off the bike feeling the fixes work, that momentum ripples through the paddock. Morale, media narrative, sponsor faith, and crucially, bargaining power in contract talks. Sepping is therefore both a technical test and a negotiation lever. Beirer closes on something every successful team knows but too few admit publicly. Riders sign for feeling as much as for results. When he stresses, the feeling for the rider is important, it's not just the lap time. He acknowledges the invisible but decisive factors: ergonomics, predictability at the limit, confidence in electronics, that turn a good bike into a bike a rider wants to build a future on. The feeling for the rider is important. It's not just the lap time, it's how they feel when they jump on the bike, if some problems we wanted to fix are solved. This is KTM's signaling patient, rider-centered development rather than headline-chasing upgrades. For Acosta, that message matters. Win his confidence, and you've got loyalty. Failed to fix his everyday concerns, and even great lap times won't be enough. If Sepping is positive, expect KTM to quietly start contract talks from a position of strength. If not, the 2027 market stays wide open and Ducati, or another buyer, retains the advantage. Pitt Beirer made the right call, admit, plan, prove. Now KTM's winter work has to do the talking on track. Ducati's biggest internal question entering 2025 was never just speed, it was coexistence. Two world champions, two different riding philosophies, one garage. Tardozzi's confidence in the Bagnaia Marquez pairing was rooted not in optimism, but in judgment of character. He framed their relationship as an exercise in separating ego from intelligence, a crucial distinction in a factory team chasing continuity. You have to separate the rider from the person. I knew the intelligence of these two guys would make a positive difference. Ducati never feared fireworks. What disappointed them was not chemistry, but performance imbalance. Marquez delivered immediately, Bagnaia didn't. Yet Tardozzi's wording avoids blame. Instead, it quietly sets 2026 as a reset point where Ducati expects both riders to fight for wins and championships. Tardozzi's most striking comments came when discussing Marquez's race start mentality. The visor down moment is sacred territory. Few managers admit to intervening there. But with Marquez's relentless hunger to win, Ducati sees its role not as restraint, but calibration, ensuring instinct doesn't override calculation. The only advice I've given him is at the last minute, when he lowers his visor, sometimes you have to tell him think things through. This isn't criticism, it's trust. Tardozzi acknowledges Marquez's aggression as an asset, not a flaw. The message is surgical. Ducati isn't trying to tame Marquez, only to keep his decision-making aligned with championship objectives. That balance was a key ingredient in his 2025 title run, and remains central to retaining it. Where Marquez needs sharpening, Bagnaia needed distance. Tardozzi's advice to Pecco was emotional rather than technical: step away, reset, and return clear-headed. Ducati believes Bagnaia's struggles were as much psychological as mechanical, and that understanding what didn't work is the foundation of his comeback. My advice was to disconnect. I think Pecco has reset and understood what didn't work. This is Ducati publicly backing Bagnaia, not as a project, but as a proven champion expected to re-emerge quickly. The reference to stepping is telling. The tests aren't about survival, but confirmation. Ducati expects a very fit Pecco from day one, and that expectation raises internal pressure just as much as it restores confidence. Looking beyond riders, Tardozzi widened the lens to the grid itself. Radio communication, improving rivals, and the narrowing performance gap all point to a more complex championship landscape. Notably, he refused to single out any rival, a sign that Ducati sees danger everywhere, not just in one color of bike. All the brands have improved. We hope that our biggest challenge will be ourselves. That final line is classic championship thinking. Ducati knows raw speed is no longer enough. Execution, adaptation, and internal harmony will decide 2026. With radios potentially entering race management, the factory must also learn how to guide without distracting, a skill as delicate as managing two champions under one roof. Ducati enters 2026 with the sport's strongest lineup, and one of its most delicate balances. Marquez must defend his crown without tipping into excess. Bagnaia must convert reflection into resurgence. Watch Sepin closely. Early signs of parity inside the Ducati garage could define the title fight long before Europe. For now, Tardozzi's message is clear. Ducati's future won't be decided by rivals, but by how well it manages itself. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!